Japan builds some of the most reliable motorcycles in the world, but not every model makes it. These 7 bikes were supposed to dominate the streets. Instead, they're collecting dust on showroom floors. And when we get to number 1, you'll see just how badly things went. Number 7. Honda NM4 Vultus. It looks like something built for a science fiction film. Long, low, and dressed in a cloak of angular bodywork that grabs attention for all the wrong reasons. Honda swung for the fences with this machine, attempting to blend cruiser comfort, scooter practicality, and futuristic styling into one radical package. But instead of capturing multiple rider categories, it found itself stranded between them. Cruiser loyalists found it too strange. Sport bike riders called it too soft, and commuters dismissed it as too big and too expensive. Underneath that extreme bodywork sits a 645 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine. It produces 54 horsepower and 44 pound-feet of torque. While respectable for everyday riding, those numbers fall short when matched against the NM4's substantial bulk. At 561 pounds, this is no lightweight. Riders expecting snappy performance were met with sluggish acceleration and a soft throttle response that made the bike feel more like a giant scooter than a true motorcycle. Honda equipped the NM4 with a dual-clutch automatic transmission, a system designed to eliminate manual shifting for a more accessible ride. But for many riders, that was the first strike. Traditional motorcycle fans want control, and without a clutch or gear changes, the NM4 felt disconnected from the road. Meanwhile, beginners who might have appreciated the simplicity were turned off by the aggressive styling and the steep base price of $10,999. The ergonomic layout didn't help matters. The 30-inch seat height was low, and the floorboard-style foot positioning leaned towards scooter geometry. The backrest, which flipped up into a passenger seat, was innovative but rarely used. Even comfort-focused riders found the bike awkward to maneuver at slow speeds or in traffic. Its stretched wheelbase and low-slung profile gave it straight-line stability, but that came at the cost of nimbleness. The digital instrument cluster, oversized fairing, and unconventional handlebar layout further confused its identity. Riders used to clean and simple setups found the controls overly complicated. Honda tried to create a cockpit that felt like a spaceship, but it ended up feeling like a prop. The unconventional switchgear and angular mirrors just made things worse. On the highway, wind protection was decent, but around town the wide body panels made tight navigation difficult. Then there's the styling. Sharp plastic lines, massive side panels, a headlight assembly that looks like it belongs on a combat robot. The NM4 was meant to stand out, and it certainly did, but not always in a good way. The design was inspired by Japanese anime and urban military themes, but American riders found it confusing at best and off-putting at worst. Some younger riders might have appreciated the bold design, but very few were interested in paying nearly $11,000 for something that rode more like an appliance than a machine. Despite Honda's efforts to innovate, the NM4 ultimately failed to find its audience. It was too unconventional for the cruiser crowd, too soft for performance enthusiasts, and too expensive for everyday commuters. It tried to do too much and ended up doing too little well. Today, it stands as one of Honda's most bizarre experiments, remembered more for its looks than its ride. From space-age weirdness to old-school confusion, this next bike proves retro isn't always a win. We did the digging so you don't have to. Subscribe for more videos like this. Number 6. Suzuki Katana. There was a time when the name Katana meant something. In the early 1980s, the original model was a radical design statement, instantly recognizable and undeniably aggressive. It carved out a niche in the motorcycle world with its futuristic bodywork and bold performance. Fast forward several decades, and Suzuki attempted to revive that legacy with a modern version aimed at nostalgic riders and new fans alike, but instead of setting the market on fire, the updated Katana struggled to ignite any real interest at all. The updated model was built on the same foundation as the GSX S1000, which itself is based on the legendary GSX R1000 sport bike. That means the Katana features a 4-cylinder engine with a displacement of 998 cubic centimeters, producing 148 horsepower and 79 pound-feet of torque. On paper, those are impressive numbers, especially for a bike that promises everyday usability and thrilling weekend rides. With a curb weight of 473 pounds and a 6-speed transmission, the Katana offers sharp acceleration and smooth shifting. It comes with modern touches like traction control, ABS braking, and fully digital instrumentation. The ergonomics are more relaxed than a true supersport, giving it a more upright riding posture, and this is exactly where the problem starts. Sport bike riders found it too tame, too upright, too heavy, and too far removed from the aggressive lean-forward feel of a real supersport. At the same time, casual riders who might have considered it were put off by the styling. The updated Katana tried to merge old-school design cues with a modern twist, but it ended up looking confused. The squared-off headlight, slab-sided tank, and stubby tail section failed to resonate with either purists or newcomers. The price did not help its case either. With a starting price of $13,499, the Katana finds itself in direct competition with more refined or more versatile machines. For just a little more, buyers could opt for bikes that offer more comfort for longer rides, more features for touring, or more raw edge for track days. Even within Suzuki's own lineup, there are more balanced options for sport touring. Comfort and practicality were also limiting factors. The Katana's seat height is set at 32.5 inches, not particularly high, but paired with a slightly forward-leaning position, it left some riders feeling cramped on longer rides. The windscreen is short and does little to deflect wind at highway speeds, and while the suspension setup is solid for spirited rides, it can feel stiff during everyday use or on rough pavement. Despite being powered by a proven engine and offering strong performance, the Katana never quite found its identity. It was not a full-on sport bike, not a comfortable standard, and not quite a naked bike either. It landed somewhere in the middle, and that indecision cost it a place in many garages. Riders today are more particular with their choices, especially at this price point, and the Katana failed to deliver a clear reason why someone should choose it over the alternatives. The Katana might have slashed itself out of the market, but the next one could not find its lane at all. Number 5. Yamaha Bolt R-Spec. Designed to compete directly with the Sportster lineup, this machine set out to deliver a stripped-down, no-nonsense cruiser experience with Japanese reliability. It had all the visual cues of a classic American bike: low stance, peanut-style tank, and chunky tires. But what it lacked was soul. Riders looking for a true cruiser experience often passed on it, while newer riders found better options elsewhere for less money. The result? A bike that looked the part but just couldn't claim the throne. Powering this machine is a 942 cubic centimeter air-cooled V-twin engine. It produces 51 horsepower and 52 pound-feet of torque, respectable figures on paper, but the delivery feels flat compared to its rivals. The engine has a good rumble and low-end torque, but lacks the raw, thumping character that cruiser purists crave. Riders who grew up with the deep mechanical feel of older V-twins found this one too smooth, too polite, and not nearly as visceral. Its 5-speed transmission pairs well with the engine in urban riding conditions, but on the highway it feels a bit under-geared. At 65 miles per hour, it's already revving high, making long-distance rides less comfortable. Combine that with a low 30-inch seat height and mid-mounted controls, and you get a ride that works well in city traffic, but starts to wear out its welcome on longer routes. At 542 pounds, the bike handles decently at low speeds, but that weight becomes more apparent during quick maneuvers or tight parking. The styling is clean and minimal, with blacked-out finishes, a round headlight, and short fenders, giving it a custom-inspired look right out of the box. But this design choice also worked against it. While it looked neat on the showroom floor, it left little room for personalization. And for cruiser riders, especially Harley loyalists, customization is part of the lifestyle. The aftermarket for this bike never took off in the same way, limiting the appeal for riders who like to make their machine their own. Then there's the price. With a starting cost of $8,599, the value equation becomes a little blurry. While the build quality is solid and the performance reliable, many riders find themselves asking, Why not just buy a used Sportster with more character and a larger support network? Or even stretch the budget for a Scout with more power and better resale value? That dilemma left this bike caught in an awkward middle ground, neither cheap enough to undercut the competition, nor special enough to rise above it. The ride quality is another area that drew mixed reviews. The suspension is firm, almost too firm, especially in the rear. Riders under 180 pounds might find it tolerable, but heavier riders report feeling every bump and crack in the pavement. The seating position also puts more weight on the lower back during the longer rides, leading many owners to replace the stock seat early on. This is not a bad motorcycle. It starts every time, handles predictably, and carries Yamaha's reputation for durability. But that just wasn't enough to win over the American cruiser crowd. In a segment where emotion, culture, and tradition mattered just as much as reliability, this bike simply didn't deliver the full package. It was Yamaha's answer to the Sportster, but most riders never asked the question. If that was Yamaha trying to be Harley, the next bike tried to be everything at once, and failed at all of it. Number 4. Honda DN01. There are motorcycles that break molds, and then there are motorcycles that break logic. This one tried to be everything at once, a sport bike, a cruiser, and a scooter, all packed into one machine. What it ended up being was a confusing, overpriced oddity that didn't satisfy any rider segment. The styling was futuristic, the transmission was automatic, the riding position was relaxed, but somehow the whole package never came together in a way that made sense for the American motorcycle buyer. At the heart of this bike is a 680 cubic centimeter V twin engine, delivering 61 horsepower and 47 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers are modest, not terrible, but far from thrilling, especially when matched to the bike's weight and intended price tag. This was supposed to be a premium motorcycle, yet its performance never lived up to the hype. The engine was reliable, but it lacked the raw torque that cruiser riders love and the high revving punch that sport bike fans expect. It landed squarely in the middle, with very few riders looking for exactly that. The transmission, dubbed the human-friendly transmission by Honda, was a continuously variable automatic system. Riders didn't have to shift gears at all. While that might sound convenient to non-riders or beginners, it was an instant turn-off to motorcycle purists. Cruiser fans who value the feeling of pulling through gears and hearing their V-twin engine work were unimpressed. Sport bike riders laughed it off entirely. And scooter riders, they already had lighter, more affordable options that made more sense for city commuting. Weighing in at 595 pounds, this machine was no lightweight. That weight became a real issue when maneuvering at low speeds or in tight urban environments. It did feel planted on the highway, but its soft suspension and lack of cornering agility made it uninspiring in anything but a straight line. Comfort was acceptable thanks to its low seat height and relaxed handlebar reach, but it didn't deliver the long-distance touring feel that some riders might expect from a bike this size. The design, while sleek and futuristic, further pushed this motorcycle into niche territory. The swooping body panels, large rear end, and oversized front cowl gave it a unique profile, but not necessarily an attractive one. It looked like a cross between a concept bike and a maxi scooter, and most riders weren't sure what to make of it. For those who cared about appearances, it lacked the classic styling of cruisers and the aggressive stance of sport bikes. It was its own thing entirely, and that turned out to be a problem. The price didn't help either. With a starting price of $15,000, it was more expensive than many motorcycles that offered better performance, more recognizable design language, and stronger brand loyalty. Riders walking into dealerships with that kind of budget often gravitated toward better-known models with clearer purposes, whether that was a cruiser from Harley-Davidson, a touring bike from Yamaha, or a naked sport bike from Suzuki. In the end, this machine became one of Honda's most well-known commercial misfires. It was too expensive, too heavy, too unusual, and too misunderstood to succeed in any major market. While it did find a handful of curious buyers, it never came close to hitting mainstream appeal. That bike was ahead of its time, but the next one, it's just out of time. Number 3. Kawasaki Vulcan S. This motorcycle was built to bridge two worlds, sport bike precision and cruiser comfort, but ended up stranded somewhere in between. Designed to attract a wide range of riders, especially those new to the scene, it promised the performance of a sport bike with the laid-back vibe of a cruiser. But instead of winning over both crowds, it left each one disappointed. The styling was clean and modern, the ergonomics were adjustable, and the ride was smooth. Yet somehow it never clicked with the people Kawasaki had hoped to reach. Powering this middleweight cruiser is a 649 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine, borrowed straight from the Ninja 650. It puts out 61 horsepower and 46 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers are respectable for a bike in its class, especially when paired with a curb weight of 498 pounds. The engine is known for being reliable, fuel-efficient, and extremely smooth at lower RPMs. But for riders coming from other cruisers, it lacked the deep rumble and throaty power delivery of a true V-twin. The Vulcan S aimed to solve one of the most common problems in motorcycle design: fitment. Kawasaki introduced the ErgoFit system, which allowed riders to adjust foot peg positions, seat height, and handlebar reach depending on their size and riding preference. On paper, this made it an ideal entry-level cruiser for shorter riders or those who struggled to find comfort on traditional cruisers. The low seat height of 27.8 inches gave confidence to new riders, and the upright posture made longer rides easier on the back. But cruiser buyers are often more than just practical. They're emotional. They buy into a culture and a sound. And this is where the Vulcan S stumbled. The parallel twin engine, while practical, simply does not sound or feel like a cruiser engine. It lacks the pulse, character, and shake of a V-twin. When experienced cruiser riders twist the throttle, they expect a certain kind of response, and the Vulcan S just does not deliver that visceral feedback. Meanwhile, sport bike riders looking for a more relaxed ride often found the Vulcan S underwhelming. Though it shares an engine with the Ninja, it does not share its attitude. The throttle response is gentler, the handling is slower, and the suspension is tuned more for comfort than performance. It feels stable at moderate speeds, but does not inspire the kind of confidence or adrenaline that sport bike riders seek. So while the Vulcan S made sense on a spec sheet, it often left real-world riders feeling like they had compromised too much in one direction or the other. Styling was another area that failed to ignite much passion. The exposed frame, teardrop tank, and minimalist lines were supposed to make it look modern and aggressive. But for many riders, it just looked unfinished. It did not have the chrome-heavy flash of a classic cruiser, nor did it have the purposeful edge of a stripped-down bobber. With a starting price of $7,399, the Vulcan S is positioned as an affordable entry-level cruiser. But in a world where used V-twin cruisers with more soul can be found for the same price or less, it has become harder to justify. Speaking of ninjas, let's talk about one that used to rule the entry-level scene, but just can't keep up anymore. Number 2. Kawasaki Ninja 250. Once seen as the ultimate beginner bike, the Ninja 250 used to rule the entry-level sport bike segment with confidence. It was small, lightweight, easy to ride, and had just enough punch to make new riders feel like they were getting a taste of real performance. But as time marched on and motorcycle standards shifted, what was once a top choice for first-timers became a relic of a different era. Outgunned, outdated, and increasingly ignored on showroom floors. Powering the Ninja 250 is a 248 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine. It delivers 29 horsepower and 18 pound-feet of torque. For its time, those numbers were competitive. The bike offered enough grunt to handle back roads and light city traffic, and it delivered a predictable and confidence-inspiring power band that helped beginners learn the ropes without being overwhelmed. But compared to today's entry-level sport bikes, those specs now feel extremely underwhelming, especially on highways where the bike struggles to keep up with traffic, particularly at sustained high speeds. One of the biggest drawbacks of this bike today is its carbureted fuel system. In a world where even budget motorcycles come with fuel injection as standard, the Ninja 250 feels like a mechanical throwback. Carburetors require more frequent maintenance, manual tuning, and can be finicky in cold weather or high-altitude conditions. New riders who are just learning to shift gears don't want the added hassle of warming up a cold carburetor or adjusting fuel mixtures by hand. Fuel-injected rivals offer a smoother, more reliable experience with fewer headaches. At 293 pounds dry and a 30-inch seat height, the Ninja 250 is easy to throw around. It's still light and forgiving, and that makes it appealing on tight urban roads or for short commutes. But the soft suspension and limited braking performance are also starting to show their age. It comes with a basic single front disc brake, and the stopping power leaves much to be desired compared to modern setups with dual discs and ABS. On twisty roads, the suspension can feel vague and underdamped, reducing rider confidence during aggressive cornering or uneven surfaces. Styling is another area where this bike has fallen behind. The original Ninja 250 has a narrow fairing, small wheels, and an upright stance that no longer feels modern. As competitors pushed forward with sharp angles, LED lighting, and aggressive bodywork, the older Ninja began to look plain and outdated. Riders today want a bike that looks fast even when standing still, and that's not the visual language the Ninja 250 speaks anymore. Then there's the pricing issue. With a base price of $4,499 when new, it was a great deal back in the day. But now, riders looking for an entry-level sport bike are more inclined to spend a little more for the Ninja 400 or the Yamaha R3. Both of those bikes offer more power, better tech, sharper styling, and improved long-term value. Even used Ninja 250s are being passed over in favor of newer machines that offer much more for not much more money. What was once a no-brainer recommendation has become a tough sell. Riders expect more from beginner bikes now. More performance, more safety features, and more modern engineering. And while the Ninja 250 will always hold a nostalgic place in motorcycle history, that alone isn't enough to keep it alive in today's market. From underpowered to overpowered, the final bike on this list proves even legends can lose their crown. Number 1. Suzuki Hayabusa. No other name in the world of sport bikes stirs up quite the same reaction. For decades, the Hayabusa was known as the king of speed, a symbol of dominance, performance, and bragging rights. When it first hit the streets in the late 1990s, this machine shattered expectations and blew past speed records. But in today's riding world, the story has changed. What was once a must-have for thrill seekers has now become one of the most difficult motorcycles for dealerships to move. At the core of this machine is a 1,340 cubic centimeter inline-4 engine. It delivers an impressive 187 horsepower and 110 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers still hold up today, and on the highway, the Hayabusa is nothing short of a rocket. But with great power comes great compromise, and that's where this motorcycle starts to show its age. At 564 pounds, it is heavy for its class. The weight helps with stability at high speed, but it works against the rider in urban traffic, tight turns, and day-to-day maneuvering. Its aggressive riding position puts the rider in a tucked, forward-leaning stance. That's perfect on a racetrack, but uncomfortable during commutes or long-distance trips. The stiff suspension, while essential for performance, makes for a harsh ride on anything less than perfect pavement. And the low-slung bars and high rear sets will have most riders feeling the strain after just an hour in the saddle. Even the most experienced riders admit this bike isn't built for comfort. It's built for speed, and speed only. The Hayabusa also carries a reputation that works against it. Insurance premiums are through the roof, especially for younger riders. That 1,340 cubic centimeter engine, combined with the bike's long history of drag strip domination, makes it a high-risk flag for most insurers. And when it comes to maintenance, it demands high-end performance parts, regular upkeep, and top-grade fuel. That adds up quickly, making it a costly machine to own, even before factoring in the price of the bike itself, which starts at $18,500. Another major challenge for this motorcycle in today's market is the shift in what riders are looking for. Years ago, raw speed was the selling point. Riders wanted a machine that could hit nearly 200 miles per hour. But now the trend is moved toward versatility. Adventure bikes, sport touring models, and standard motorcycles with comfortable ergonomics and smart electronics are leading the pack. The Hayabusa, by contrast, is a specialized tool in a world that now demands multi-purpose performance. It's worth noting that the Hayabusa is still one of the most technologically advanced motorcycles on the market. It features multiple ride modes, advanced traction control, and a quick shifter. But even those features can't mask its primary issue. It's overkill for most riders. And when a motorcycle is built for straight-line domination, but most buyers want balance, it's no surprise that it's being left behind. It ruled the streets once, but now it's just a showroom ghost. Let's wrap this up. Which of these bikes would you actually consider, if the price was right? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-world motorcycle insights.